Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back to work over here on the Monarch 612 lathe, and really, I think the last thing I've got to get done to it before we can use it, there's still a few things that need to be done to it, but this is the last step before we can use it, is I need to get a tool post mounted on here where we can put some cutters and be able to do some work holding. Now, what I've got up on here right now is it's just sitting here is a Aloris DA size tool post. Now this is one of the extra large ones. This is not a real common size. The CA is what I have on my Monarch 16-inch lathe. This is the DA model, which again is larger. I found this, it's used. I picked it up from a friend of mine, John Schlackner, up in the Cincinnati area a couple of years ago. John is a retired machine builder from, used to work for Cincinnati Millicron, and he had this, he was selling some stuff a while back. And I bought this tool post as well as a handful of the actual tool holders that mount on this from him with the intention of using it on this lathe. Now today, what I want to do is first, I want to completely take this thing apart, go through it, service it, make sure everything's properly lubricated, clean it out. It's been sitting for a while. Then I need to make a T-bolt that will fit into the clamp on this here. It did not have a stud and nut on the top to hold it all in place. I'm going to have to probably make a stud to go in there, or we can just use regular nut to put it on there. But basically get all this on here mounted, and with some luck, at the end of this video, we might be cutting some metal on this lathe. Let's keep our fingers crossed. So let's get over here and see if we can get this thing taken apart and get her cleaned up and ready to go in here. I thought I'd just kind of give you an idea of the size difference. This is the CA tool holder that I have on my 16-inch Monarch lathe. This is the one that I use most of the time, and you can see considerably larger. Here's the tool holder for the CA holder, and by comparison, there's a tool holder for the DA1 on there. So much larger, beefier. Again, it's a larger, beefier lathe, so we need a larger, beefier tool holder, tool post to hold it. I've also got a BXA, which is smaller than this one, that goes on like my Monarch 10EE. I don't have it where I can bring it over here and really show it to you, but it's considerably smaller than this one. Again, you scale these things for the size of the machine that you're putting them on. Let's go get her taken apart. Again, here's the tool post. Here's some of the tool holders that we were able to acquire for this that will fit it. So I got a nice selection. You can't have too many of these things. I really like to get my tool holder set up with the tools that I'm going to use them with and just leave them in there so I have to change them out every time. I know for my other lathe over here, I probably got 15 or 20 of these, which fortunately the CA tool holders are a little bit easier to find, used, and you can even get the import ones that are, you know, made in China, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a block of steel. As long as they fit, they work. I don't know that they make any of these in the import ones, so pretty much all of them the original Aloris. And yeah, I haven't really started pricing any, but I won't be on the lookout for some more of those probably as well. Over here on this, we need to take this thing apart. I have shown how to do this before on other size tool holders. We're going to go through it again. This is the wedge type, so you got the two little tapered wedges on here on either side. Basically, what you have to do is unscrew this whole top part, and if you look, there's a hole through here. This is, of course, where the stud that mounts it to the lathe goes, and a big flange nut goes on the top. But if you look here, there's little slots, and basically what you have to do is there's a tool that fits down in here that has a pin in it that fits down those slots, and then that allows you to unscrew it. I don't have that tool, so we're going to make one. I've just got a piece of hex stock here. It's just a little bit large. I'm going to turn it down to 1 inch on the round part here, and then leave this where we can put a wrench on it and turn it. And then I will drill a hole through it. We'll put a pin in there. Probably, I don't know, we'll find something to go in there, press it in, and basically just make a little tool. So that's what we're going to work on right now, is going over the lathe and making this piece that we can unscrew this with. All right, we got our piece of hex stock in over here at the lathe. I'm going to start. I'm going to face this in where it's got a nice surface there. This is going to be the top side. We'll have the hex to put a wrench or something on. I'm just relieving the outside there a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable to use. Probably going to over extremes for a tool that's probably going to get used once, but hey, I can't help it. All right, now we're going to flip this around. I'm going to again face the bottom, and I want to put a center in this side. There's a place on there where this piece had been worked before, where it looks like a hole had been drilled in there. I'm going to try to turn some of that out. All right, now I'm going to come in with a center, and we can support this while we're turning the round part. All right, that should do it. Now I'm going to extend the part out in the chuck. We'll leave a head up there where we can put a wrench on it, and I'll put a center, live center in there to support that end, and then we'll finish tightening it up. All right, now I can finish tightening this up over here. That's nice and straight. Buff the camera, sorry about that. Tighten that all up. Now I'm ready to turn that down. I want this to be 1 inch diameter. I'm not going to take a whole lot off of it. We're just going to let that roll down through there. And that should do it. We did clean it up. That's a little bit undersized. That's what I wanted. I'm going to just take some emery cloth here and polish that a little bit. I'm going to just relieve that bottom. And also relieve this right here. All right. That should take care of the lathe work. So here we go. This will just drop right down in there. I got a hex on top. That'll give me something to put a wrench on to turn this. And to actually engage in here, I'm just going to use a dowel pin. That's a 1/4 inch dowel pin. This one's 1 3/4 inches, just a little bit long, but once I get it installed, I will grind it off a little bit to make it fit down in there. But what we're going to do is go over to the milling machine. We're going to drill a hole through this for a press fit. We'll drive that dowel pin in, and that'll give us what we need to be able to turn that thing off. So let me go over to the milling machine, and we will get set up to drill that hole. Got a drill bit in here. This is one size under 1/4 inch, and can drill that through. This is 15/64 of an inch is what we're drilling this right now. Okay. Now we will come in here. I'm going to swap my tools out. I'm going to put in a reamer. And this reamer is 4 dowel pins. It's a 1/2 thousandths under 1/4 inch. So 0.249 1/2. All right, get a little cutting oil going here. I had to go refill my oil can here. There we go. So now we will ream that out to size. All right. We should be ready to press that dowel pin in now. We're over at the arbor press. Got a little V block up underneath that, hopefully to kind of hold that in place. I can get it started here over the V block. And that is a tight fit, which is what we want. Just about through there. Okay. Now this gets challenging because I'm not going to have anything really right up underneath it to support it. It's going to want to, maybe we can get it to go. I'm going to have to kind of block this end up with something. All right, that's close. I'll give it some support. Let's see. All right. I'm going to have to grind a little bit off of one side, but I think that'll work. Got this over in my Wilton vise to help support it, and it just drops right down in there just like it's supposed to. Now we need to unscrew this, and for that, I am going to use my impact gun. These things are usually pretty tight. Let's see how this goes. There it comes. That's exactly what we want. Oops. Mighty dry in there. That comes out. Yeah, I got a little rusting and pitting on that part, but I think we can clean it up okay. That shouldn't matter too much. All right, let me get this over to the bench and we'll finish taking it apart. All right, we're back over here at the workbench now, and we're going to continue taking this thing apart. So remember, right? Let's see, this will kind of, yeah, there we go. It'll unscrew. Yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. There's definitely been some rust down in this at some time or another. And these should come off on the inside. I think they're, let's see how we get these out. Well, I got to remember how this is done. So there's basically, these just kind of worm up, and there's like a spiral gear in there. You know what? I think they come out the bottom. That's what it is. Yeah, there we go. So that one comes out, and this one comes out. And again, got some rust, but I think it'll clean up just fine. This is pretty much the components. What I'm going to do is get over here and probably take this to the wire wheel. We'll clean all the rust off that we can. I'm gonna have to get down inside this thing somehow or another. I'll figure something out, kind of get it de-rusted, and we'll just lubricate it up real good and get it put back together. So I'm gonna go spend some quality time with the wire wheel and get these things cleaned up a little bit. I think we got everything pretty well cleaned up. I'm ready to kind of start reassembling this. So we're going to come in here and start putting this stuff back together. I've got some grease here. This is some Teflon grease that I use for these kinds of applications all the time. I'm going to kind of get a little layer on these surfaces that were pretty dry before and had a little rust on, but we got in there and cleaned that up pretty well. I think that one goes in over here. It's kind of on a dovetail type surface there that goes up and down and tightens up as it goes. Let's get this one greased up as well. That looks good. Now we'll I really want to grease this inside up pretty good. It had gotten really, really dry in here before, and we obviously had a good bit of rust in there, and that is not what we want. So I'm going to make sure I got a good layer of grease in here all around. Everything's covered in it. Same thing here. I'm going to make sure we got plenty of grease on this spiral, this screw. This is interesting. It's a very coarse thread. It's actually got 3 starts on it. So it starts, you see a thread starting there, there, and over here. So anyway, there's 3 different starts to that spiral as it goes around. And so basically your pitch, you know, it looks like so many threads per inch, but it's very steep because for every revolution, you're actually going 3 threads. So it's very fast acting. All right, so now screw that back down. And you can see when we do this, it moves the dovetail wedges up and down, and that's what tightens that up on the front. So when you come up, you can slide that down, you come down, and it makes that wider and wedges it shut, and that looks good. So next, I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to lube this up really good. This piece had a significant amount of pitting on it, but honestly, I mean, it's not really a precision surface. It just rotates and kind of spins on this. I'm hoping that that's not going to give us any problems, but we'll lube it up real good and hopefully won't have any issues with it. All right. So that's going to go down into the bottom, and that will just tighten up, and we can use our little tool here to help do just that. I do need to kind of pay attention here. The position of my handle is over the dovetails, and because it's got 3 places it can start, we can get it in a position where it's not going to be in our way. So I didn't think about that. Let me pull this back out. So I'm going to see here. First off, let me figure out where I want it at. So right now, I mean, you kind of want it in there, but really I need it over in this sector to kind of do that. So let me yeah. See, now my handle is, you're going to be putting tools over here, so you want it to be in that range because over here there's nothing in the way. So that's where that needs to be. And we'll put this back in again. I think that's good. Pull that out, wipe it up, and I think we're ready to go here. I'm going to just take one of these tool holders. These need to be cleaned up, but that'll go right on and wedge into place. So up next, I need to make a T block that will fit up in here. They'll be threaded for that to tighten up into. This is going to have to be a custom build, and I've got a block of steel here that we're going to machine that out of. So I just basically took some scrap metal I had. It was a little bit larger, so I did kind of cut it out. It's rough cut on, I think there's only 2 factory edges on it. The rest of them are all been bandsawed, but we'll get over to the milling machine, get everything squared up, get this T-slot cut into it like it needs to be, and we'll drill and tap that hole for the stud. Just going to go up through the middle. So let's do that. And with that, I think we got our T-block made here. This fits in here very nicely. Slides right in place, not really hardly much play in there at all. And when you pick it up off the bottom, there's still a little gap in there, so we're not gonna be bottoming out there. It's gonna be clamping this basically down to the sides and to the side. So we're good to go. So next we need to drill and tap this for a 1-inch stud that's gonna come up through here that this whole piece will clamp down onto and basically just sandwich it in place. So let's get that set up over on the mill. All right, we're back over here at the milling machine, and next step is we need to drill a hole in there to tap for 1 inch, 8 threads per inch, which according to my tap chart over there is a 7/8 inch hole. So we're going to start with a 3/8 inch drill bit here, and we'll just kind of work our way up to it. I just mark the center of it there. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just getting it close. And we'll go ahead and get this hole put in here. All right, that hole is through. We'll go up a size and drill bit here. I think my next one's a 1/2 inch. And I'm just gonna go straight to the 7/8. And we'll go straight up to 7/8 here. Let's slow that one down a little bit. A little oil in it. All right, one hole through there. We are ready to tap this. Let me go get a tap set up and we'll do that next. All right, we are, I think, ready to start tapping this. I've got some anchor lube here. This is it's really become my go-to tapping fluid, whatever you want to call it, lubricant. I really do like this stuff. I'm gonna put a good bit down in that hole, and I'm gonna put a good bit on this tap as well. All right, and I've got a tap follower in here that will help me get this thing lined up straight. I'm going to start it over here on the mill machine and try to get this tap going straight. I'm probably going to go over to my other vise and use a bigger tap handle once we get it started straight, though, because I can just get more leverage. But I think this is just too long to swing on the milling machine. But I think we can at least get it started here because this is a big tap. All right, I got my Greenfield number 8 tap handle here, and this should give me more leverage to put this thing in here. Just breaking those chips as I'm going. All right, I think I'm about through here. That was a workout. Having that leverage of this big tap handle, though, makes all the difference in the world. All right. We'll back that out. And I think our nut is made. So that'll sit up underneath this, and that'll tighten down on that. Next thing I need to do is make a stud to come up through this. I need to see how long it needs to be. I don't have a flange nut for this, but I can use a washer up underneath that until I can get one. I'll just have to order one from McMaster-Carr. And it looks like I need about 9 inches total length, and that'll give me a little bit out the top. So let me go find some 1-inch stock, 9 inches long. We need to thread both ends of it. And we'll be moving along. So my plan was for the stud that we were going to make is I was going to just get a piece of 1-inch stock and thread both ends. However, I got to looking and I didn't have a piece of 1-inch stock sitting in the shop. So I ended up running to the store. I just bought a 1-inch bolt that was 10 inches long. I cut the head off the end, and we're just going to put this over here in the lathe, and we're going to thread that end down there where it needs to be, and I think we'll be ready to go. So that is the game plan. Put a threading tool in here, and I'm going to chamfer that with that same lead-in angle that the threads are. All right, we're going to come in here and touch off on there. Put a little cutting oil on here. And I think we are ready to go. Check that for fit. Getting close, may need just a little bit more. Actually, that's going to fit pretty good. All right, we got that done. And we got our stud ready to go in here. I'm going to put some red Loctite on the bottom of this. I really don't want the bottom part turning too much. I want the top part to tighten up and loosen up. So we'll just Loctite that in place and screw that in there. I don't want to go all the way to the bottom. I don't want it bottoming out on the piece here. I want it engaged in those threads pretty much all the way to the bottom, so I can see it right there. I think that's good enough. We will drop our part on here. So I think we're ready to go ahead and strap it down. Now, what this should have is a flange nut on this, or a nut that has a kind of built-in washer. I'm going to have to order one, but for now I'm just going to put a washer on there with a nut that will screw down on here, and we'll tighten all this up. Very good. And that looks like it's going to work just fine. So let's get one of our tool posts, our tool holders here, and that'll lock in place right there just fine. I'll have to adjust the height once we get some work in here. I've got a tool cutter here. Fits that just perfectly. And we'll go ahead and tighten this up. When I bought this lathe, it came with some chucks, and these are 2 of them right here. It also came with a big faceplate and a bigger 4-jaw chuck. This is a 3-jaw chuck. One on the back here is a 4-jaw chuck. I got turned around. It was on this little rolling cart, which is a little bit too big to fit behind the lathe over there, but I think we can get it picked up and over there. So we're going to be looking at that. What I want to do, I think, before I put this on, though, is I do want to clean this chuck up. It's just a little bit dirty more than anything else. A little bit of rust on it. It's not too bad. It's actually in pretty good shape. It doesn't look like this chuck has seen a whole lot of use. This is a Cushman. Isn't that right? Yeah, Cushman chuck there. This other one over here, this is a Cushman as well. I think that the guy that had this before me probably bought these new, is my guess, just based on the condition of them. Yes, they are rusty. They got some surface rust and they are grimy, but I can just tell by looking at them, they don't have a lot of use in them. All right, I think what I'm going to do is see if I can spin these out. I want to get these out over to the parts washer and clean them up. And like I said, it's just got dirt on it more than anything else. Get it picked up. We're going to use the crane built into the machine to do that. I've got a key here that moves these in and out. I've noticed that, man, you got to really crank this thing to move these jaws. It's got a really tight scroll in there. Anyway, I'm gonna see if I can get them out, and then we will clean it up. Oh, that's interesting. So these have got, there's a scroll in there, and there's also where you can adjust each individual jaw on the 3 jaws. So that's going to be handy for fine-tuning stuff. You may not have to get the 4 jaws out every time you use this thing, because you can adjust each jaw independently. This is the first time I've used this little jib crane, and I can already tell that it's got limitations. The arm needs to be longer to really reach out here and pick something up and get it over to the lathe. And instead of having those hooks on the bottom, I'd rather have a trolley that runs back and forth where you can move it. So yeah, we may be redoing that or redesigning the whole thing in general. Like I mentioned before, I'd really kind of like to have a bigger jib crane on here that would swing over both of my lathes. And I don't know, we may see about doing something like that. I kind of got an idea of something I could build that would suit my needs. And so anyway, we'll see. Let's see if we can get it picked up and over there. It's going to be kind of dragging along here a little bit, but I think we can do it. I got this little winch up here. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to get this cart out of the way. See if I can get this pulled back up on here. All right, so I think what I'm going to have to do is set this down and go over to the second hook where it's in the middle, and I should be able to kind of pick it up. But I tell you what, before I do that, I want to clean the back side of this thing up. So let me get where I can get to that a little bit better. This D16 back plate here, it grabs a hold of these 6 studs and kind of pulls them in. So I want to make sure that these are kind of cleaned up. And also it registers on this little nose, this little tapered cone in here. So I need to get that cleaned up as well. Make sure we got a nice clean surface to mate up on. But you should always check when you put these chucks on and off. But this one's so nasty that I just need to get it cleaned up real good. So now what I want to do is kind of get this chuck sitting down in the saddle here on the lathe where I can move that winch up at the top. I'm going to move it to the center position here, which is more right over the part we want to pick up and mount it to. Put this in neutral where I can kind of position that. All right, now I need to get something to lock the back plate in. So basically you just tighten up that little ring right there and that cam lock pulls it in. So now I'm going to disconnect my winch here. And I'm going to take my eye bolt out that we've lifted it with. And I'm just going to roll this thing around. I usually do kind of every third one. I'll lock that one in. And I'll lock this one in. And then I'll go back and get the ones in between. In fact, I'm just going to hit them all. That one's already tight. There we go. That one should already be tight. Just that one. And now we're good. All right, our chuck is mounted. All right, I think we've got the jaw pieces here cleaned up and ready to go in here. I spent a little bit of time cleaning up this chuck as well. Wire wheel, Scotch-Brite, what have you, just knocking stuff off. And it looks really nice. I'm very happy with how this turned out. One thing I'll note is, we've got the 3-jaw chuck. This is where the individual jaws go, but we've also got T-slots in this one where you can use this as a faceplate when you take the jaws out, kind of like it is. So have that option as well. But right now we want to get the jaws back in. So each one of these are numbered. There's 1, 2, and 3. It matches the jaw that's going to go in there. They're numbered as well. And you need to make sure you get them in the right place because there's a scroll back here in the back that moves that in and out. And when you turn the lever up here on the top, you see it turns that scroll, and that scroll moves them in and out. But they got to be timed properly for them to work like they need to be. So you need to make sure you got them in the right place. Now, on this one, we kind of got two different things going on. There's two pieces to this. You got the actual piece with the scroll on the back, and then you got an adjuster in here where you can adjust each one of these independently. They need to go in together, and I'm just kind of getting them all in the kind of same position. The other thing I need to do is get this scroll, make sure we got it positioned. What I'm going to do is we're just going to, if I look right here, you can see, I had it in place a minute ago. That's where that scroll starts right here. So I've got it where I'm just about to catch the first tooth in the scroll. So we'll push this down in here. That should catch that first jaw, and it is pulling it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this around to number 2. This is the one that's marked number 2. And I'm going to continue moving that around until I see my scroll start to come out right there. All right, there's the tooth. So we'll go ahead and get this one positioned and started. All right. All right, that didn't catch. Use this lead hammer and just kind of tap it a little bit. All right, it's pulling in now. All right. So again, we come around to number 3. And that is pulling that one in. All right, so now it's just a matter of scrolling this all the way down and pulling them all in. I usually like to pull them all the way down. I want to see that they're coming together in the center and matching up. Now again, the nice thing on this chuck is that I can adjust the individual 3 jaws and get it fine-tuned a little bit. There's probably enough adjustment in there. Even if I was off by a whole tooth on the back, I could straighten it out, but I don't want to go down that path. So anyway, we're going to pull it all the way in. This one moves really, really slow, so give me a few minutes and we'll be back. All right, we got a piece of metal in here and got my chuck all snugged up. And surprised, I'm actually kind of surprised, not really, but am kind of a little bit, that without making any adjustments to the jaws at all, I mean, we're running within about a thou of being perfectly in line here, which for most things, that's good enough. I'm sure at some point in time, I'll probably fool with trying to fine tune these, because again, you can adjust the individual jaws in and out on the ends of these. But for right now, we're just going to leave good enough alone. I just want to make a test cut on this basically and give it a try. So I'm happy with that. Real happy with how this chuck has turned out after some cleaning and just inspection and what have you. It looks like it's hardly been used. So let's get our cutter adjusted on height and we will make some chips. All right, I got my cutter pretty much on the center here. And one thing to note is that to get that cutter on center, I pretty much had to lower this block down to where it is all the way on the bottom. And I noticed this earlier when I was just kind of playing around with this thing. I noticed that this tool block is up a little bit higher than I would like for it to be. I'd really like for it to be down probably, I don't know, 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch lower than what it is, to just give me a little more range in the height of this tool that I can do in here. There's nothing I can do about it right now, but since I am going to replace this tracing attachment piece with just a riser block in here at some point when I get that cast, at that time, I want to make a note to myself that I want to make this lower by at least a 1/2 inch. So I may have to redo my pattern now that I'm sitting here thinking about it to make that adjustment, but we'll deal with that to get this down a little bit lower. When this machine was built, they weren't really using this style of tool post holder. They were using more of a lantern type holder, and it's probably at a right height for that, but ideally we would be a little bit lower than what we are. So just something to note. I think we're ready to see if we can cut some metal. Let's try her out. All right, guys, we got this thing going here, and I'm going to come in here and start by facing this back side off. I am sticking out a little bit farther than I probably should be, but got a pretty stout piece of metal there. All right, that looks good. Come in here and touch off. We're just going to do about a 20/1000 cut. I don't have a support down here on this. I don't want to get too carried away. And I think I've got this set up right now. We're running 330 RPMs and we're doing about a 7/1000 per revolution. And just cutting it like butter. Tell you what, like a little heavier cut. About a 40/1000 cut, not a heavy cut at all, but just trying it out. It's cutting metal. That's what we want. I don't want to cut too much off of this piece of metal, just playing around here. It's a decent finish. I don't know how good that insert is. That was just what was in it. But I'm happy. You know what? That's the first chips right there on this lathe since it's been new to me. I'll shut that off. I'm not going to get carried away. I really don't want to eat this piece of metal up too much, to be honest with you, because that's a good piece of metal I can use for something down the road. So I'm happy. I think we are ready to put this machine to work. Well, guys, I'm real happy with this so far. Like I said, this was just the very first chips of hopefully many that we'll be using this machine for. I do have a job that I need to get set up for. to actually use this for the first time on a real job. Like I said, this was just kind of just playing around, testing real quick, just making sure everything's going to work. And yeah, other than my tool post height here, I'm real happy with how this went. And this is usable. It's just not ideal. And we will take care of that, like I said, when we make a new riser block. So next for me is we're going to be getting this set up for the next big job that's coming up. And I'm actually going to have to put a 4-jaw chuck on here. I've got a bigger 4-jaw chuck, and we're going to be pulling this one off, putting the other bigger chuck on here, and getting a piece of work mounted up on here. Pretty good size piece of work to do some turning on. So looking forward to that. And that, like I said, hopefully coming here real soon. Our machine's ready to use. Yes, there are still a few things I need to do to it before we really start getting in full swing, but I got this one job. We're going to probably go ahead and slip it in. What else is on the checklist to do? I do need to get my automatic oiler put on here. I've got one. It actually just came in the other day, so we got to get it hooked up and plumbed up. That will automatically lubricate everything on the saddle. The other thing I need to do is I need to take the time to get this machine leveled up. Right now we're just sitting on some wood on the floor. I've actually got some wedge levelers that we're going to be putting up underneath this. And there's going to be 8 of them, and we will get the machine leveled out. And that's, again, coming up probably pretty soon, but we're probably going to go ahead and get this job done that I need to get done before we do that. So with that, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today. Very happy to see this machine ready to start playing around and using. And guys, we'll catch you on the next video.